Okay. The full body of the internet as an abstract machine. It is not merely just a singular milieu, but in every facet, a refined potentiality of generating an existence for the conditions of a plane of becoming that is presented in nearly the same manner as the world. There is a multiplicity of differing and transducing worlds in subsequent milieus, continuously being created, rejuvenated, converged, intersected, crushed, and assembled. That corresponds to the function on function interaction, proceeding to construct the conditions for territorialization to occur. The flows of the internet are sporadically designed, inseminated by algorithmic delineations that function as the fundamental conditions that necessitate the construction of worlds and milieus concerning functions that will have a basis of activity. So hitherto, action can be performed. Functions having the means of producing other functions or allowing for a function to manipulate and articulate a previously produced function or functions. The internet is open to the thermodynamics of power, as stated by James Flint, of resistance, of control. It has levels of apparency, and levels of indeterminacy. It affords various possibilities for movement and interpretation. It is complex and unquantifiable. It creates its own speeds and slownesses, whilst creating the conditions that make speed and slowness a potentiality that enacts indefinite becomings. At any moment, seemingly anywhere, that one deems necessary, plugging into and unplugging from the internet can be put forth. When plugged in, what is put forth is an immersion into the virtual that is contained within the real itself, into pure potentiality. The inverse of the virtual real relation renders itself as real virtual, but the preceding relation between the virtual and real is first choreographed and then the subsequent reversal is actualized. The real actualizes appearances in a virtual sense, meaning the internet makes use of the imagination, for most of its functions are derived from therein, but specifically in the sense that this is a forced application. It is multifunctional, for it animates the imagination, creates flows and states of fluencies, and gives rise to a plethora of interactions that all involves differing and interconnecting sequences of social formalizations. The internet is a socius, a body that has other bodies clustering around other bodies, ad infinitum. It possesses the potential for an eternal line of worlds and milieus that provides the conditions for absolute exertions of coding, decoding, and overcoding to be performed. Consequentially, the construction of realities follows these same operations. The internet is ever drawing a line of deterritorialization that cuts through every world and milieu that is subsequently created. And I will touch upon this more when I speak of how capital money reterritorializes on the internet itself. But to continue, whether that milieu or functions within are deterritorialized, and consequently a proceeding reterritorialization is made responsive, the internet is ever in a state of refined potentiality. What this means is that it not only functions as a rhizome, but whether this was the intent or not with the creation of the internet, it has become a literal presentation of a rhizome. The internet did not have a commencement, for abstract machines of the technological, mechanical, and machinic have always existed in relation to humans, such as the abstract machines of human labor, culture, economics, religion, and politics. The internet, if anything, is a hyper intensified procedure of transportative flows that corresponds to cognitive, imaginative, and abstracting processes. It is a means as to which codes take on entirely different forms and formulas, nonetheless, render into a virtual existence the literal presentation of the interior human hardware that made all of this possible. The creation of the internet is not a culmination, it is yet another age of becoming, or another full body, that which is a new socius, a potentiality that melds transcendence within the confines of its own immanence. Excuse me. Implications confer that distortion has never been more prevalent, and this vortex of distortion is the internet. It is ever in a state of globalized movements that has functions converge, intersect, collide, and construct themselves whilst encircling the center, that which is the internet. To truly have a uh, to truly have a proper apprehension of the internet, one must denounce that it even has a center, that it is instead a centralized power structure or centralized apparatuses of power that continues to keep pushing the internet to have an adherence towards a center. In the words of Flint, what are the new flows which are being opened up? How are people organizing themselves around these flows? What are the new configurations of power and control which are becoming possible as a result? What is held as apparent in relation to the internet is how the internet is appropriated to varying degrees in the same manner as to which a populace and its functions are appropriated by its respective God ego nucleus. Now, I can let you define God ego nucleus however you please. Furthermore, laws, regulations, and codes of conduct carried out by regimes of signs dictate certain qualities of the internet. But the emissions of deterritorializations are made ever more prominent when it pertains to the atmosphere of the internet in relation to the confines of real milieux. As Deleuze and Guattari note, if motorized machines constituted the second age of the technical machine, cybernetic and informational machines form a third age that reconstructs a generalized regime of subjection. Recurrent and reversible humans, machines, systems replace the old non-recurrent and non-reversible relations of subjection between the two elements. The relation between human and machine is based on internal mutual communication and no longer on usage or action. That was from their book, A Thousand Plateaus. From the onset of the internet, when introduced to the public, it was held as a means of experimentation in relation to potential encapsulations conducted by egos in nuclei. This experimentation solidified implementations that primarily consist of social production, content/expression production, communication, and entertainment with underlying reterritorializing flows of subjugation. The usage of technical devices is wholly reliant upon the language of a given body of people who utilize the internet, and it is with the usage of the signifier/signified relation that this becomes ever more apparent. Contrary to preceding technological devices such as the TV or radio, or even present technological devices such as game consoles, which had very limited functionality with the internet, the evolution of game consoles and TVs have made access to the internet applicable. But what one can do on a multifunctional phone or tablet, let alone a laptop or a computer, ever further draws that line of potentiality in a far more potent sense than the formers. Excuse me. This is my first video and I haven't really ever done this before, so I'm actually kind of nervous even though I'm recording this by myself. Bit of a intermission here. But I find that I have seen like almost instant progression of maybe getting a little better with speaking and expressing my thoughts in a more coherent manner within just this time of recording. So if there are some little bit of gaps or mistakes that occur from the way I vocalize myself, I do apologize for that. But to carry on, it is the access to the internet as a virtual yet real and immersive experience that when one is plugged in and has a continuance of interaction that has it qualify as not only an absolute rhizome, but as the changeability of a perceptive grasp that emanates potential encapsulations or the freeing of movement, production, semiotics, and desire. It must be noted that with the constructs that are video games, they present the literal representation of a book, poem, song, etc., as if one was in the act of reading one, a becoming of the literal imagination that is congruent with their respective codings. The digital coding of a pixelated world is real, but only in relation to the screen that it is observed upon, only in relation to the device that is utilized as a controller. So this is truly the internet is truly when art and technique kind of converge and continue to connect with each other in new and different ways to such an extent that the line of creativity is is ever exuberant. It's ever being actualized in an imminent sense. Let me backtrack a little bit. I kind of lost my place, but for my script, the digital coding of a pixelated world is real, but only in relation to the screen that it is observed upon, only in relation to the device that is utilized as a controller. Other than these two components, it is elusive. Furthermore, it is not real. Regarding virtual reality as immersive as the world you plug into, as you plug yourself into it is still nothing more than assemblages of digital coding and pixels. None of this is directed toward the decision of stating that this is not real, for on the contrary, it is meant to exemplify just how real all of this in actuality is. There is a principle of deception which is articulated by the hand of artifice, and it is through relentless procedures of experimentation and questioning that we can dismantle the layers of artifice itself. We allow ourselves to create new modes of thinking, which eventually translate to new modes of living.